This is an interview with Mr. Donald Hauser from the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute on History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're presently at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is January 10, 1997. I want to thank you, Mr. Hauser, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit and talk with me today about Birmingham and the movement. I want to just ask you some general questions about your background. Were your mother and father from Birmingham?
Oh, no, they were from Ottawa County. They both were from the same little town, Ottawa County, Ottawaville. I don't know exactly what years I think they come up in the late 30s or 40s. I know for sure the 40s, at least the 40s.
Right.
And so my mother was attended Miles, and she finished growing up, I think, in Fairfield. They told me. My dad came to Birmingham. He worked at U.S. Steel for a while. And that's, I don't know if the union had been made at the time. So I think they were married. No, not at first. She came up first, and I think he followed, like, looking for work, supposedly. And,
But they knew each other in Ottawa.
They grew up knowing each other.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
One brother.
He's the oldest.
He's older than you. Your mother and your father coming from Ottawaville, you then were born here in Birmingham, I understand. Okay. What community?
They had a house in a zip code.
Okay.
But she gave birth to me in Fairfield, which is the house where her granddad, no, it was her uncle's house, who would have been on the mother's, on her side.
Right.
She gave birth there. Me and my brother were born there.
So did you grow up in Fairfield?
No, I grew up in Simcoe.
In Simcoe. Oh, okay. What school did you attend? What was your first school?
First school, Finley Avenue Elementary School.
Finley Avenue. Do you remember those first days at Finley?
Oh, I remember them vividly, yeah. This is Coke, so who's alive today. Was my first grade teacher. And I couldn't go all the way up the line, but I remember her because she was compassionate, like most first grade teachers are.
Yeah. She made an impression on you.
Oh, no doubt, made an impression on me, no doubt. And by my mother being an educator herself, it was something like, how they have what word am I putting? For lack of a better word, that inness that educators have with each other, especially when they're dealing with each other's kids and all. So that stood out. She, in my opinion, took a little bit more time with me. And seemed to be, was friendly to everybody, but you know how you feel that they're being more friendly to you because they know you folks or something. That's the impression that I got.
How much older was your brother?
A year and 9 months.
So you were in school together?
Yeah. Much so.
Did your mother teach in the Birmingham school system?
She, by her being a wife, she supplied most of the time in the Birmingham. So she taught all over the state before we were born, before us, but basically all over the city after, giving birth to us.
So your father then worked for U.S. Steel during this time? No,
what happened, I had the late, you probably, you're a history man. You know how the layoffs occurred in the 50s, especially the late 50s.
That's right.
At U.S. Steel. And they had a lot of people laid off out there for a long time.
He was one of those
He was one of those. I think it was the early 50s when he was coming and back and forth out there. And he had done he had fought in World War II and Korea and all that. And so what he decided to do was make a career out of it. And that's what he ended up doing.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he
got steady employment. So he didn't want to do all that fighting with the layoffs and all that, but try to look for how he was going to make ends meet. So he decided to just make a career out of it.
Okay. Did you know how long he worked for U.S. Steel?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think he did about. Don't make me.
Did you remember him?
I don't remember that.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. He has told us, he told us that's what he did when he.
So then did the family remain here while he was in the military?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what was that like? Your father being away and.
Well, you can imagine it was not. You missed him a lot. he would call and write, and we'd write him, and he'd come home for leave every year and spend 30 days with us and try to make up for the time that he wasn't there. And I guess you may have had some resentment, but not much in me and my brother's case, because it looked like every time he would come home, we just looked forward to him coming back. We knew he was coming back.
Yes.
We knew that. So where a lot of people may have grown up on their, having trouble with their early years, where seeing my dad wasn't there all the time, we knew how to call him. We knew that he was coming home. We started feeling that way. That's all we knew. We didn't know another situation, so it didn't. I don't think hurt us that bad as far as him not being there every day.
Accepted fact of life.
Accepted fact of life. That's the best way to put it.
So then, the period of your, your elementary school years, is there anything that stands out in your mind about that period of your life?
How secure I felt. How you feel in those years. You feel nothing can go wrong. And that's basically it. Great years. I can speak for mine. They were great years growing up here in Birmingham. I cherish them. I always think about them. I try to find people that I knew back then and see how they're doing, because they were some really, really nice times to be a kid in the city.
Did you always live in the Finley area, even during high school?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Unfortunately, my mother passed in '62. And my dad remarried, and we ended up in Columbus, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And finished growing up in Columbus.
What high school did you do?
Carver, Columbus.
Carver, Columbus. The other was Spencer.
That's right.
That was your big rival.
That was the ride. The Greenway.
I know a little about Columbus. My aunt lived right on the hill from Carver.
Oh, yeah.
And she taught at Spencer.
Okay.
Those were, in fact, I had cousins that went to Spencer.
Okay.
So I know that. So you then, at what age did you leave Birmingham?
14.
14. And you went through high school.
Well, I did a year at Parker.
Well, you did do a year at Parker.
Okay, Parker.
What was it like going from elementary school to Parker High School?
A great experience. You're talking about a situation where you're leaving a school at Finley Avenue where you can walk to every day, typical neighborhood school. What people talk about they want for their kids now, you see on all the news, we want a neighborhood school where we can just hand our kids the lunchbox and they can walk up the street to the school. That's what it was like. And that was beautiful. On the other hand, going to Parker, which we had heard about all our lives, a lot of positive and some negatives, you bigger kids talking about Parker this and Parker that. And Parker was, at that time, and I think it's pretty much so still is, but the premier school in the city. And had been that way for 100 years.
It was the only
school, yeah. And finally, I was going to get a chance to go to this so-called great high school. And it was like anticipation. I really wanted to see what it was like. Before I went and enrolled over there, I had never even seen Parker.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. But the way kids move around now, you didn't move around like that then. You had to stay in that neighborhood setting that you grew up in. I mean, as far as you may go into the next neighborhood, but that's as far as you went. You didn't venture off. That's what kids do now.
That's right.
We were really sheltered back then. I know it now.
And most of our venturing off was walking.
There you go.
That was rather limited in itself.
There you go. And it was really, I was really anticipating going over that. Wow, I went to this great high school. It's a step toward adulthood, you're leaving from elementary school to adulthood. That's pretty much the way I looked at it. And so the first day over to Parker, I've never seen as many kids at one time in my whole life other than maybe a ball game of some type. And unfortunately, I had never gone to any of the football games beforehand, any of the basketball games, any of the activities that associated with any high school. So I thought I could imagine what it would be like, but no, it was going to see it was really a thrill. The kids from everywhere. I said, God, all of us going to get into this place.
How did you get that?
Well, okay. Now back then, Birmingham schools, this board was not in public transportation. Then. We didn't have the yellow buses and all that. You caught city. You used the city system to get that. So in other words, you caught a special, and that was a real fun thing to do that for the first time. You see them all the while you're growing up. The specials would come down by Finley, pick up a crowd on that end, go back on the other end, and then they come back to the old park. And they be yelling. You know how kids do. They yelling. You know, that got to be fun thing. So you find the first day catching a special. You had heard stories about different things what happened on the car line away from, flying or whatever. First day you catch the special to go to the park. That was a trip. That was really a treat too. Going to the school. And when you got there, all the buses are lined up in the back. You marched. I'm sorry. No. First day we went over there, we had to get there on our own. Yeah, because the freshmen always are always registered at a different time from the 10th on up, 10th grade to 11th grade. That's right. Now that special thing was real special too, first day you caught it, but that was not the first time. The first time we got on, we called a ride over there. One of the fathers, somebody dropped us off, somebody's parents or whatever. And so we went in and I'm trying to remember the guy's name who was talking with us that particular day. It was Mr. Jones, I do believe it was. Attorney Jones' dad. And he welcomed us. And the S.B. Charles, Carver now, that's S.B. Charleston. This is R.C. Johnson came out and addressed us, and who had the nickname, long time before we ever saw him, we called him Big Red, that was his nickname. And like he kind of said, so that's Big Red. And he was as big as they said, the descriptions were given about him.
So did you know him when you saw him?
Oh, no doubt. When he came, I think he came through the crowd and like made his entrance on the other side of the stage. And somebody, like I said, Mr. Jones spoke first. I know how to do it. All of the coaches and the teachers came up and introduced themselves. And freshmen who would have had freshman homerooms, and then the coaches, Major Brown, and he was the last. Anyway, Mr. Charles Johnson was the last to speak, and he introduced himself, and he was. It's almost like the little PSA that Colin Powell and his wife does. I don't know if you've seen the interview. He talks about the first time he met R.C. Johnson. He never smiled, and he never didn't trust him. And he gave you that impression. You didn't trust him now, you never saw him smile. And he was strictly business. I'm talking about strictly business. And it was amazing the way he could show up in a set, anywhere on that campus, and everything would quiet down. I'm talking about total respect for this man. That's what everybody, and Parker was a rough school back then. They had a reputation for being a real rough school. What year was this? This was the 62-63 year. Okay. Yeah. All right. The year of when the movie. So this is the year, right? The year of the demonstration. And this was your freshman year.
And
my freshman year party.
And you were really amazed by Parker, just the deal of being a member of Parker. Did you participate in extracurricular activities?
Yes, I went out for football, and but what happened? I didn't go out for August training of that year. I went out for the spring training of the next year. Yeah. I never did play.
So you would leave before?
Yeah, before I ever playing for Parker.
You left Parker and went to Carver in Columbus. What was that like? Was Carver similar to Parker?
It was a real culture shock. Total, similar in a lot of ways, but it was really a culture shock. I don't know if I'm saying that, it was, because here you're talking about leaving a situation where you had quite a few schools. You had what we call the old Black Five in the inner city.
Right.
And a tremendous amount of county schools that, when we would, no matter what extracurricular activity you're talking about a lot of schools to play against. Now you're talking two, maybe three, when you counted South Girard, which was right across the river in Phoenix City. And so it was interesting, and it turned out to be even a better setting for me But it shocked me at first. I said, God, y'all got 2 schools here? But I thought the rivalries that Parker had with other schools here was something.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing compared. It was like Auburn, Alabama over there.
Is that right?
With Spencer and Carver.
Mm-hmm.
And Carver was just getting to a point, Carver was something.
New school.
Man, yeah, pretty new. And just turned high school, been in high school maybe 2-3 years.
Right, that's right.
And
Spencer really was the Parker of Columbus.
That's right, of South Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
'cause their record in everything is similar to Parker,
Right.
if not better.
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
I remember that Spencer actually came to
I was just thinking,
Tuscaloosa, to Bessemer in 60, either in 59 or 60, to play Dunbar. And that was a big night.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Dunbar probably beat, I don't know. It was a big time game. One of my cousins was in the band. It was the, what do you call the major, drum major, yeah, for Spencer. So that was a big time night. And I was in high school at the time, probably 10th, 11th grade.
tell you a story about stepmother. All of her brothers and sisters went to Spencer, and she specifically wanted me and my brother to go to Carver. Now she just said it was a better school. I said, well, I didn't care. We were just there, and we wanted to be here in Birmingham.
Yeah.
But she specifically wanted us to go to Carver.
Mm-hmm.
And I have often asked her when she was still alive, why did you choose Carver? I thought it was the better of the 2 schools at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And but I mentioned they beat. Let me tell you what happened. I didn't know this, but I was looking at one of her brother's yearbooks. He went to Spencer in '52. That's the year the game was 50, 51, or 2. They came to Birmingham and beat Parker 50-0 at Legion Field.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I don't think they've met since then, but they had that type of reputation to go anywhere.
Oh yeah, they had.
There was a challenge.
Yeah. Carver, your stepmother probably was living at Carver because it was more of the middle class school. It was in the middle class area.
Okay.
In Carver Heights, Ildridge Road, that area. That's where the middle class was moving into that area.
Sure were. That's right.
So that's probably why she was saying it was a better school, because you had a different clientele there than you did over in Spencer, and what we call the bottom.
Okay, sure was.
Yeah. Before you left going to Columbus, you got involved in the movement.
I sure did.
How did that happen?
Went to Parker one morning. Well, let me start by saying the incidents about the bus burnings had occurred in Anniston, and the riot at the Birmingham Greyhound bus station had occurred. At this particular time, I'm starting to really realize that I was a different color from other folks. You don't realize this when you're growing up, but especially back then, because like I said, you're so sheltered in that neighborhood where you grew up.
Right.
There aren't any whites. It's just one. It's not bilingual in there. It's one group there.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't go to shop. You didn't have to face the situations that you would have to face when you left that area, or more than likely we're going to face. We had a lot of fear and respect for the police back then, but you knew how to avoid that then. As a kid, I mean.
Right.
So you didn't.
Did you ever have any encounters with them during that period?
Not.
Prior to the movement itself?
Let's see. No, not myself.
Mm-hmm.
Not myself. I never had any encounters that I can think of right now. No, never had any. We were basically good kids. We stayed on pretty much the right side of the law, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very interested in what was going on in the city, because the grown-ups used to talk about what happened here, what happened there. And I wonder why people get treated like that. Why, And
what would you hear? What kind of things?
Oh, they would talk about the way they set the bus on fire in Anniston, and the way they beat the people, and you see it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And we did fortunately have TV at that time, and you hear a different. I'll tell you a good example, like the mayoral race in the late 1950s when Bull Connor was he ever mayor? I don't think he was.
He was the
police commissioner. Right.
But he ran for mayor, but he didn't
Art Haynes beat him out. Yeah, Art Haynes beat him out. But the campaign was one of the first campaigns ran on television.
Mhm.
You actually have a block on there where he talked. You got footage of it here, where he talked about why he should be elected, and be pretty, what word am I looking for? Pretty nasty in the way he would express why he would be, should be elected.
Classic bull comedy.
Yeah, no doubt. Classic bull, vintage.
Yeah.
And boy, that, have a chance to see that. Art Haynes, he was no nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was less of the two group of evils,
That's right.
and you talk to him today, you probably see that. He hasn't changed.
Yeah. That's right.
And the governor's race, particularly, my mother was very political, and she would watch different speeches that would come on TV. John Patterson, a guy that I don't like today because of the way he was back then. Wallace, a guy I don't like today because of the way he was back then. Who ran for governor, and Folsom, the senior, who you would like today because of the way he was back then. He was he was ahead of his time for the state of Alabama. He was ahead of his time. Let's see, Jimmy Faulkner, you would have liked him because he was the first white guy that I can remember that ran for governor. He was out of Mobile or some area down there, who ran for governor and actually came to the black community and campaigned.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people know that. I remember that.
Right.
He actually entertained a black audience to try to go after the black vote and said, I will be fair. Nobody else would even say that.
That's right.
They would mention you in their speeches. That's all. I'm talking about not at all. The guy that Wallace beat out who died in the plane crash, the Graffin Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. He was no nice guy.
Right.
Matter of fact, he would have won while campaigning in North Alabama. The plane hadn't gone down.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wondered, I often wondered, and a lot of people wondered right around it, what would have been, the state would have been about the same, what it would have been like if he had not died in that crash and Wallace had rocked like he did.
Well, how did you get involved?
Oh, okay. We went to school that morning. It was like a spring morning, and I think it was May of that year. We went to school, got off the specialist park. 1960, no, this was 60, yeah, spring of 63, that's right. And I'm trying to get the year right. Okay. And let me start before that like the night before, this is like a Monday, I do believe, and all of us kids in the neighborhood who were over at the park, who went to the park, and we had got together, we were talking about the situation, we had heard the day before that Dr. King himself had gone to Carver here in Birmingham and turned it out. Or was going to do so the next day. Something
That was the word on the street.
That was the word on the street and all through the neighborhood. And, we were talking about what we're going to do if they come over to the party. You going or you're not going? Well, the folks all the grown-ups got wind of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all of them were giving their speeches that night in everybody's house, because we've talked since then as grown-ups about how you better not be in the school ground and let that situation work its way out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get involved. My daddy called that night and said to the effect, I don't want y'all involved. It's a dangerous situation. I mean, you show you how the grapevine was really working then. He had gotten word, and I forget where he was stationed at that particular time. I think it was stateside, but he had gotten word. He saw this, he always kept up with everything, the current events and all. He had gotten word of how they were using kids.
Right.
They were going to turn the schools out as far as the marches were concerned. And he called that night. It's almost like he anticipated it and told my mother had passed that time, her sister, my aunt, to make sure they go to school and talk to us too. He talked to us. But that next morning, we had made up our minds that night. I don't know about me. I know my brother had too. Matter of fact, as we laid that night, I said, what you going to do tomorrow? He said, I'm going down and we come and get us. We're going down. I said, well, we'll go look and see what happens. And I'll never forget, we got to Parker that morning, and Reverend James Bell was the guy to come over to Parker. We had come out of class, and all the school was over there on that side of Parker that used to sit on the, it doesn't run up through there anymore. That's First Street. What is St. Joseph's on? 3rd?
St. Joseph, yeah.
That's 3rd Street that runs beside it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it would have been 4th Street, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
Going toward the Bethlehem house
Right.
from St. Joseph.
Yeah, from St. Joseph. You know, the school used to sit on 8th Avenue,
That's
right?
right.
Okay,
Right on-
remember that?
right on-
Right on I don't know if it was 2 blocks 8th Avenue or I think
Yeah,
it
I
did.
don't know whether that was 2 blocks or a block, but it was.
It took the whole block.
Yeah, it took the whole block.
So that would have been, that would have been 4th Street, I think, that ran the side parking.
Yeah.
5th Street is on the other side, right? You know, I'm thinking it was like that then. Now, that's where he was on that, what would have been the 4th Street side. I'm talking about where the specials used to go into the schoolyard. And I don't know, the whole school was out there. Yeah, it was a fence there for the gate, you know, because they would close it every day when the school would, you know, come on.
Right.
So he was talking to us who almost marched for it was exciting too. Who almost marched for your freedom, and the crowd would just burst into, you know.
This is a big crowd of kids. This is,
Well, you know,
this is before school had let in.
the school had let in,
It had let in.
and like they didn't have any control.
Mm-hmm.
So a few times I was seeing the grown-ups did not have any, the teachers did not have any control of that school. And, you know, and I think Mr. Johnson may have been somewhat in favor of this because he never did make a showing.
Okay.
Never did make a showing over there while Bevel was talking to us. And like, he said, all of you all who would like to go, come go with me. He turned and started walking toward this way, like down 8th Avenue, and they tore the fence down. And it was like, you know, I know at that time we had about 5,000 kids in this one. We had over 3,000 kids in that school.
Mhm.
And the whole, I know for, if not 3/4 of them, you know, I think that's
Vast majority.
vast majority followed him down 8th Avenue, singing songs. You know, it was really nice. It was exciting. For a 14-year-old, it was really something. You know? We marched all the way down 8th, and the crowd got bigger as we went down 8th Avenue. And we came, I think we came straight down 8th Avenue. And when we got to the back of the church at 16th Street, no, we made a right and then a left, you know, and came into the front. And it was like a humongous crowd here already. But those were like just the other adult blacks that were there. And like went into church, sit around, all that, they singing, having a good time. Did my brother get arrested that night? I think they got arrested that night. After they were arrested, now you got me. I'm determined to keep coming back. Coming back. I had some near misses. One near miss. Went up. We were marching in front of Newberry's. What happened? And they had all types of strategy to get you up there because if you tried to leave the church march, they would arrest you or turn you back then. So what?
Downtown.
Yeah, you have to figure out a way to get to a certain point in downtown. You know,
You said your brother was arrested that night?
that day, yeah, the first day,
Okay.
him and another guy, a friend of mine I was with last night, were arrested that day. They did about a week all together in jail. They did almost 2 weeks there. Yeah, that day he was arrested along with some more, looked like a quarter of the neighborhood. And like, now that made me determined then. And so I went that whole week and never did get, you know, I remember we marched on Newberry's one time and like, was it Woolworths? It was Woolworths. And like, they lined everybody up to put them in the paddy wagon, pulled a school bus up, and I'll never forget this. I started to step onto the thing and the cop stopped me and said, wait a minute. He said, how old are you? I said, 14. He said, he yanked the side of me. He said, get out of here. And I said, what? He said, don't talk to me. He said, get out of here. And so I walked. Now, the strangest feeling, you don't want to have to walk. I mean, this is what I was thinking. I did not want to have to walk from back downtown and get back to the church somehow. You know, that's what I was fearing right there. I said, Lord, would I make it back to the church? You know? And they had told us, if you get this burst in any way, make it back to the church as quickly as you can. And so I did just that and told them what had happened. They said, well, you know, that's the way that is. We'll try it again. And they kept going like that.
You were disappointed from
Yeah, I was really scared, but disappointed, really.
Yeah.
Because, you know, here you are, you're marching for this purpose, you're thinking all your friends are gone, so you don't mind going. You're scared, but yeah, you want to go. You're at that age where you don't think things can happen to you. You know how kids are when they're in those young years and just don't believe it can happen. And that's pretty much the feeling that I had. And like,
so then you didn't get arrested that day. Did you march again that day?
Not that day.
Okay.
They had so many people, they would tell you, well, don't worry about it again today. We got to send these out. They send another group out, Jack. They go up on the other end of town and hit some other white establishment. And just kept doing it. It was really planned perfectly. And I had a chance to see a lot of the lieutenants and Dr. King himself. Spent a lot of time at the church, and that's another time in my life that I really cherish. I got a chance to be a part of history. Finally got arrested that next week, I think it was about a Wednesday.
Did you march every day up to the?
I went over there every day. But you know what they would do? They would take the group. Let's say you did march yesterday. Well, you wouldn't necessarily march today. They bring another. They were just going to different schools, turning them out, Jack. All the high schools, and like I think they even bust some from the outer school, the county schools that were just too far to walk in. And like we cheer them, and greet them and all. And they come into church and like they talk to them and tell them take up all the weapons. Tell them what the strategy was going to be. It was not to fight, So the crowd outside is going to do that anyway. We don't have any control over them, but we have to have control over people who are going to march. That's pretty much what they would tell you. And you'd be in the balcony. If you marched yesterday, you would be in the balcony.
You are a veteran now.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was pretty similar to you were a veteran. And they had other things for you. Oh man, they just steadily getting together and thinking of things for you to do.
What other kinds of things?
Oh, well, different other points of interest so they would hit, those diehard cows, like Newberries. Nobody ate in Newberries. No black person had ever eaten in Newberries. The same thing with Woolworths had a counter. Everywhere, you see, you got to remember all the department stores had lunch counters in them. So you're talking about Lacrozettes, Loveman's, and just go blacks. Yeah, all of them had lunch counters that you couldn't use. And so you're talking about a steady stream of pickets around them every day. And what was so interesting, show you how divided this town was from where are we now? The next block at the end of the you can come out from church and just look up the street. And you see Bull Connor and all the white folks in the world look like all the way back up 6th Avenue. And they stop right there. And all from there, there was like a neutral zone between this block on 17th and 16th Street. Now, right here, 16th Street, and all up here, and all back west, and all north, not the black folks. Crowd that big, every day for, I don't know, 2 to 3 months, it looks like.
Well, did you go to school every morning, or did you just?
No, school was out. When they turn out the schools, that's basically what you had there. School was out for this reason.
What were your aunt saying and your dad? Did your dad call anymore?
No, they knew I had made up my mind.
So they didn't attempt to keep you from going by trying to intimidate you.
No.
Anything like that.
They may have tried. I can't remember, but not much.
Yeah. Now your brother was in jail. How long did he stay in jail?
He stayed in about 7 days, I do believe. If I'm not mistaken, we went up. They arrested him on a Monday, and he got out like the next Monday, something like that. I went in like that Wednesday of the same. Okay, I know. He got arrested. I went back Tuesday, and then finally got arrested Wednesday of that same week. That's what it was. And I went until the weekend. And like what had happened, they let us all out. They emptied all the jails, like the weekend of that week.
Where did they house you?
Okay, now, first got arrested. I forget where I was marching in front of, but when we got on this particular school bus, first they took us to the yard at the city jail. There used to be a yard out there that they had us all, had us all in, not everybody, but a lot of us. And until nightfall, and then they took us over to juvenile and did some processing over there. And before late that night, we ended up at the Jefferson County Jail. I forget what floor. And that's where I stayed for 4 nights and 3 days.
What was that
4
like?
days and 3 boy. Now, I tell you, this is the negative part of it, in my opinion. In this particular jail, when we finally got to jail, the negative part of it was the turf battles that started occurring in jail.
Is that right?
Yeah. The reality, I guess you could say, set in.
Mm-hmm.
People from a zip code didn't get along with people from North Birmingham, the Fairfield and South Side. All of that came into play again.
Oh, it did.
Now, complete unity while you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Got a common cause there, but once you were locked up in there, it was like a power struggle. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Your group was big, you had a big number.
Control.
Yeah, you controlled the block.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but see, it changed. It had a tendency to change every day because every day their parents were coming to get them. Boom, boom, boom. So where Fairfield may have been in charge when we got in there, by the next night, the North Side was in charge.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, but it wasn't that bad. But that was the negative part of it.
Mm-hmm. That sort of sticks out in your mind.
Oh, no doubt.
Were there any fisticuffs?
Oh yes, goodness, yeah, you fought. Boy, I'm telling you, you fought like that. Especially when you first got in there,
Mm-hmm.
you fought. You had to fight. I'm telling you. And then you have alliances that would be created. I suppose it's like that in jail now. I hadn't been since then. I don't want to know. But you have alliances that would be created in jail. Like, well, we didn't get along. The Simcoe kids didn't get along. I think 2 or 3 of us in there. Well, we didn't get along at all with the North Birmingham kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was an automatic unity that had to form that to keep the Fairfield kids off us in the West End. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So alliances were created automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Friendships was springing up just like that, And so although we had differences on our side of town, we had to come together.
Were there any adults in with you?
No, not in our block. I don't think they mixed them, but I hadn't heard anybody saying anybody that did any marching and was were arrested back during that time, say anything about adults being in a block with kids back then. You would see them. You could look out on, daytime, and they'd be when they used to let them go out in the center there where they let them go out and smoke and do all that. You see them, but they would be in uniforms. You would have on what you wore when you were arrested.
And how long were you there?
I was there from Wednesday to about Saturday. Mm-hmm.
And
we got out like Saturday night,
Who came to get you?
Picked me up my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
He's deceased now. It was my mother's brother.
Mm-hmm.
They came and picked me up, and they went and got my brother. I think looked like he stayed until Monday. He did, like I said, a whole 7-day stretch.
What did you do once you got out? Did they take you home?
Oh yeah, they took me home.
Did you ever participate again?
I never did. Not as a marcher.
Mm-hmm.
Not as a marcher. I think I'd had my feel, but I always was, I felt the cause was right.
Mm-hmm.
I always was.
What was the reaction of your friends and the teachers once you got back to?
Well, so many went. It was like, where were you now? Anything that would be the number one question. Where did they have you?
Right.
Yeah, it was just that many. So many of us that were in school at that time participated, and all of us had stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they had trouble housing us too.
What did the teachers say?
They seldom. I can't remember them saying anything. I can't remember them saying anything about.
But that was a badge of honor.
No doubt. No doubt. It was a real badge of honor.
Mm-hmm. So then, how soon after that did you then go to Columbus, Georgia?
That was the spring of '63, and we went to Columbus in the fall of '63.
So you were in Birmingham all during the summer?
All during the summer.
But you didn't participate in any of the demonstrations during that summer period? Okay. Then was your father then stationed in Columbus? Is that
No,
where
he wasn't. He wasn't stationed.
Oh.
I forget where he was at that time. But he was, I think he was in Maryland.
Why did you go to Columbus? Was that to live with your
He, yeah, that's right. Live with the stepmother.
Okay, so that was her home.
That was his home.
Yeah, it's obvious that those days spur a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
emotion when you're talking about them. Do you ever
You have class reunions at Parker?
I never have
You ever
participated in.
any kind of reunion with any of the people that you were involved in the movement with at that time? Your brother, friends, the community?
Very much so, but to say that we have, let's say, a marchers reunion,
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Right.
But like I said, all of us, it was like the whole neighborhood that were teenage, girls and boys, participated in that. So when we get together now, if we think of it, we'll say, you remember when we went to jail for this, the marches and all. But normally we'll get together and talk about everything that happened while we were growing up. May have happened since we were growing up.
Right.
So think about the marches though, and unless something comes up on TV or something dealing with civil rights is in the current news that's going on.
Right.
Think about that.
And you said James Bevel was the person that came out to get you.
James,
So
I
he
remember
was
that
sort
like
of-
it was yesterday.
Is that right?
And unfortunately, I had a chance to see him again. It's 97, I think it was 95. He was with the LaRouche group.
Right.
I think Linda LaRouche. And he was at the hotel over there on the campus over there, right by the freeway, was it Best Western or something?
Yeah, right.
We got a chance to talk to him, and I think he's in Mississippi. He was from Mississippi, I think. He's preaching, I think he's in Mississippi, he said, or something like that.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I just got word today that he was here in Birmingham Wednesday. It's Friday. He's Wednesday night, but not speaking anything. To visit Reverend Smith at Imperial. Yeah.
yeah, he looked well too, looked just like himself when I saw him last.
Yeah. Is there any other thing that you want to share with us in relationship to your growing up in Birmingham and the kind of atmosphere that you encountered during the times?
Well, I can't really think of anything. I can say this, that I think growing up in Birmingham was just as nice a situation as anywhere else in the country. If you don't know, a lot of people say, I've met people since I've been grown, and they just happen to be from the north and west and all that. They'll say, well, how did you guys survive this situation? I mean, if you don't know any difference, if you don't know that people can go to any park, sit anywhere in a movie, or if you don't know the situation exists, it doesn't bother you. I mean, I didn't know it existed, just like I said, we were reared in that community up there. That's where we stayed. If we went to the movies, there wasn't anybody else there but us.
That's right.
So, we were so sheltered to the point where we couldn't have found out until we got to be late teen, grown about what segregation was about and all that. So if you don't know it about it, it doesn't bother you.
What did you do after you finished high school at Carver?
Went to Morristown College of Tennessee, I got drafted after that. I stayed there a year, and then in '68 I was drafted, went into the Air Force, chose the Air Force. Did that for 4 years, and the Vietnam thing, and then came back in '72, and I've been here since then. Jeff stayed for broadcasting. Basically, that's it.
Why Birmingham rather than Columbus?
I don't know. I felt my roots were here, and they were. Went back to a class reunion down there, and I found out that my roots were there too. I'm just saying, after going to that reunion, I realized how much I loved Columbus and how important it was that Columbus just happened to come into my life at that particular time. I needed a Columbus to finish growing up in. It's a vital part of the reason I'm okay today. Yeah.
Father still living?
No, all my parents are deceased. My stepmother also.
Yeah.
So, and she was really important in my life. I have to give her credit. Matter of fact, like I said, if I hadn't met a woman like her to really finish up what my mother had started, I don't know. I think I would have fallen, I don't know, like I said, I would have stayed by the wayside, but I would have fallen by the wayside, I believe. It's a vital part of my life. Matter of fact, I named my kid after her. That's show you how much I thought.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, I'm glad I went to Columbus. So, nice city, a real family. It used to be. I don't know about now. It seems like it still is.
small in comparison to Birmingham.
Yeah. That's why I said a culture shock. City moves that moved like Birmingham did back then. Think about leaving it and going to a small town. Really, that's what Columbus was, a small town.
Yeah.
But it was nice.
Mhm.
I didn't know it then.
You know,
I
you never knew it at that time.
sure don't.
Yeah.
You know.
If you look back. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for your time. It's been very helpful because that energy that you give to that, that participation in the movement is so vitally important. So thank you. Appreciate you doing it.
Okay.